Do you like conspiracy theories?
Yes, they're putting chemtrails in the waters and turning our frogs gay.
Are you a dedicated Joe Rogan podcast listener? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and tonight I am just joined by our czar of source material, John.
That's my secret, Alex. I'm always reading manga.
Oh, what are you reading right now?
I'm reading Solo Leveling.
Oh, Jesus.
This one's gotten, Korean manhwa has gotten, first of all, it's not manga, it's manhwa.
Manhwa! You gotta say it right.
Yeah, of course, my bad, man. But, it has been getting really popular. I remember
Korean everything has been getting popular over the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, I meant, like, Solo Leveling got really popular. I remember I picked it up, originally because my younger brother and I, we trade, like, just novels to read, web novels, like Korean, Chinese, doesn't matter. We read all the web novels. And I remember, I believe he was the one who showed this to me, or I showed it. I don't remember, actually. It's been a while. But Solo Leveling in the very beginning, it wasn't very popular, but the manhwa that came out looked so fucking good that it's become super fucking popular. Which is great. Right. Like, I hope it gets an anime. Like, it's really action heavy, and it's pretty cool like that. Story-wise, it's really good until the ending. The ending I feel cheated out of because it's kind of like, it's obvious the author rushed it, so there's that. But, I mean, you could say that about a lot of fucking manga and shows right now. One of which that I will not name for spoiler's sake.
Yeah. All right. So tonight, you and I have gotten together, and I wanted to talk about I guess a topic that maybe will help some of our listeners, especially maybe some of our listeners who are newer to the medium of anime, manga, light novels, and the like, discover some stuff from the past that may be considered hidden gems, things that are either underrated or underappreciated, or maybe both. And that's I wanted to bring that forward tonight so that people can maybe find some new anime to watch. Think of this as a recommendation. So we're not going to get into super heavy spoilers. There may be some light spoilers from the very beginning of some of the things that we're going to be talking about, but we're really not going to get too heavy into spoilers because we are kind of using this as a way to tell you guys, hey, we saw this or read it and we like it, but we don't think it ever really got as popular, or it doesn't get the appreciation that it has ever really deserved. So maybe go watch it and decide for yourself.
Yeah, like we were we had to come up with more shows and manga to put on this list because we were originally supposed to be 3 of us and we were gonna have 3 each. But yeah, so we fucking Googled.
Someone's sick.
Is that why he's not here?
He said that he's actually been fighting like a head cold for the last couple of days. So,
yeah. Shit, yeah, I didn't know that. I just assumed he was like, it's getting kind of late.
No, he's been fighting Natai's been fighting a head cold for like the last 2 or 3 days. So.
Oh shit! Now I feel bad for making fun of him in my head, but.
I feel bad. He was never gonna hear it, but I feel bad for thinking bad about him.
Oh man, because I was like, he's canceled the last 2 recordings. What a dickhead. But anyway, yeah. So we had to fill the gap and we were like, fuck, we don't have anything to put on here. Let's Google it.
Well, to be fair, you stole, like, I think 2 of Natai's things.
I stole 1 of Natai's things.
Oh, excuse me.
I agreed with him. I was going to actually, because, all right, full disclosure, I didn't open up this topic list until, like, literally before we had to record, so I didn't fill out my...
John.
Classic John, unprepared. I literally filled it out 5 seconds before we were supposed to start. So I wanted to talk about Kekai Sensen anyway, because it is a really good show.
Well, since you've mentioned it, do you want to go ahead and start?
No, I need to finish the story about how. So we Googled it, right? And we went on Screen Rant and Ranker, and we're just like, a lot of these animes are not underappreciated or underrated. They're just fucking old. Like, fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That was a lot of them. A lot of them were just like shows from like the late 90s or early 2000s where it's like these are pretty big in the day, and the people that have watched them kind of like them. So is it really either underrated or underappreciated? And that's a distinction I wanted to make. That's why I chose both of these. Like, so for underrated, I'm saying that a lot of people have watched them, and maybe the general consensus is that they're not as good as we personally think that they are. And then for underappreciated, it's anime or manga or light novels that for whatever reason, and there could be many different reasons, when they originally came out and still today are they weren't watched or read by a lot of people. And that's a distinction I made.
So I'm waiting for the day where people are going to be like, top 50 underrated, underappreciated anime, and I'm going to fucking see Death Note on there. Because eventually...
you're going to see Attack on Titan is what you're going to see.
You're going to see... Oh, God, hope not. I hope not to ever see that on any list other than... We're not getting into this. I'm not...
The biggest anime disappointments.
Listen, some people like the ending, and I'm not friends with those people anymore. So,
you heard it first here, Natai.
Listen, I didn't spoil nothing. Natai doesn't even listen to our fucking podcast. Get out of here.
No, because he's on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm the same way. Who listens?
You have to listen to it though, because you edit it.
Yeah, but I don't like go out of my way to listen to an episode of the pod. I did one time actually, and it was extremely entertaining. Doing that while I was working. I was showing someone like our podcast at like work, and we just threw it on while I was working, and they actually enjoyed it. So shout out to that person. You will remain unnamed. Person who works at my work with me. So
blink twice if you're being held hostage.
Listen, I didn't force them to listen to the podcast. They just wanted to listen to it, so I threw on an episode, and to me it was entertaining. But anyway,
yeah. So since you brought up Kekai Sensen and it is on your list, do you want to go first and talk about it? Why people should watch it?
May as well. All right. So Kekai Sensen, Blood Battlefront Blockade, as the English title is translated, which is weird, I know, but Kekai Sensen literally translates to like Bloodline Battle. So I don't know. It made alliteration. It sounds cooler as Blood Battlefront Blockade, I guess. I don't know. It's a fucking mouthful, man. Like,
it is. Either way, it's a fucking mouthful. Kekai Sensen or Blood Blockade.
No, Kekai Sensen is literally 4 syllables. That's easy. Kekai Sensen. 2 of them are repeating syllables.
Make good point.
But yeah, it's not a. When you say Kekai Sensen, it doesn't sound like something you'd remember. Like Attack on Titan. It's like, well, that sounds weird, but Attack on Titan, like that sounds like bad English. Or what the fuck is it? It's the Japanese name for Attack on Titan.
Shingeki no Kyojin.
Yeah, see, that still sounds cooler, like Shingeki no Kyojin. That sounds weird, right? Kekai Sensen sounds super like plain. You can watch this Kekai Sensen on Funimation, Crunchyroll, and Verve. We're not sponsored by either of these companies.
No, but we did actually take the time to go and find out where all the things that we're going to talk about are. You can either stream them. Well, actually, we really only did stream and or read them online. Good luck with the manga. That's all I got to say that you're going to talk about later.
Good luck with manga and web novels and light novels and stuff like. Legally speaking, you're going to have to buy these, which is unfortunate. But did you know your local library, if you live in the U.S., disclaimer, you could actually rent out manga and light novels if they have it at your local library.
Did you also know that local libraries will take recommendations for things they should have on their shelves? All you have to do is ask.
This has been a PSA from the Anime Club After Dark cast for the support of our libraries and post offices.
Seriously, like, people don't realize that libraries are still around and they offer a lot of different services.
Yeah, it's not just weirdos who go there to jack off to porn.
I mean, you might see that too.
Oh, that's so uniquely American. Oh my god. No one's going to understand this. We need to do an American episode, I swear.
I feel like more people will understand this than you realize.
Weirdos who go to the library to jack off? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
We are talking to anime fans here, so...
Oh, yeah, no, they're the weirdos jacking off.
The weirdness factor is there.
Oh.
Anyway, Kekai Sensen.
Yeah, what do I like about Kekai Sensen? I like, for whatever reason, I like anime that's anime originals. Like Code Geass, Death Parade, Kekai Sensen.
Because you get a complete story. You don't have to worry about a partial adaptation.
Yeah, and that might be why I enjoy anime originals so much compared to, like, animes based off of stuff. Because that's not to say that there aren't any good animes that are based on things. Like, Slime Tensei has done a phenomenal job adapting the light novel.
Mushoku Tensei.
I have some
I know you have issues with it, but overall it's a pretty good adaptation so far.
Yeah, at least it's getting Mushoku Tensei popular, so that's great.
Yes.
But Kekai Sensen is... how do I describe Kekai Sensen? It's episodic, which is something that I really like about it. Like the story...
Which is kind of rare in anime these days.
Yeah, because, I mean, episodic usually means they do episodic shows for anime originals because they don't want to make an overarching storyline because that's kind of difficult to do. Especially if you don't have a guideline of like, well, this is the general flow of the series. So it kind of makes sense for them to make it episodic because like, all right, this week we're going to have them do this. Next week we're going to have them do that. And there is a culmination, like stuff that happens in it. It's not like Family Guy or other American episodic shows where their consequences don't actually have actions. It does have actions and an impact on the world. But overall, I'd say Kekai Sensen is just, it's episodic. Every episode is different. It has a different moral. And
I've been told that it's done in such a way where you can kind of come in anywhere in the series and get a general feel for what's going on, but it still just encourages you to go watch it from the beginning anyway.
All right. So the biggest reason I like Kekai Sensen is the soundtrack.
I feel like for all the anime you're going to talk about, you're going to say, but the soundtrack though.
Okay. Quite literally, it's only going to be Kekai Sensen that I talk about the soundtrack. So, Kekai Sensen's OST is fucking god tier. My god. Like, I should have done research. I should have pulled out, like, who did the soundtrack. But I love the soundtrack so much. Freaking On My Own by Ai Shinomiya. I believe that's the singer. She is phenomenal. It's like, it's jazzy. It feels like you're in one of those, like, lounges, like, that has like one of those 50s singers, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't know what you would call these, like
lounge music.
I guess it's with the Prohibition era. They had those secret lounges where they'd like
speakeasies.
Thank you, speakeasies. Fuck. So yeah, it's got like a speakeasy type of vibe to the On My Own song, and I love it. Right, and every episode of Kekai Sensen is different, and I would argue some are better than others. Some of them are super fucking emotional. Some of them are super fucking funny and random. And that's what makes Kekai Sensen so great, because it's kind of like you follow the main guy. I wish I fucking looked up his name, but there's a main character guy, and you kind of just follow him and his travels and what he does every day on a daily basis. He's kind of like an Odd Jobs type of dude. And it's so entertaining watching him going around and interacting with the world, and just having that backdrop of music is just like chef's kiss, man. Like, it's the icing on the cake. I fucking, it is, and no one fucking talks about Kekai Sensen, and I'm like, why? It's got
By
everything.
the way, for reference, the person who was in charge of the music for Kekai Sensen is Taisei Iwasaki.
Yeah, Taisei, fucking clap, man. Like, I don't know what else you did, but fucking Kekai Sensen, you killed it, bro.
He has only ever at least in the anime sphere, he has only ever worked on 2 other animes OSTs. The other one, or one of the other ones, was Dragon Pilot, which came out in 2018, and the other one is Belle, which is Mamoru Hosoda's newest movie.
Yeah, don't know any of those. However, Kekai Sensen, people should go and watch it. It is so underrated and underappreciated. Like, I remember when it first came out, people were like, oh, it's kind of weird, it's episodic, and that was it. Like, no one talked about how good the fucking music was, no one talked about how good the action sequences in it are, and no one talked about how great the fucking storylines are. Like, if you like Baccano, you'll fucking love Kekkai Sensen.
That's actually a interesting comparison. It definitely makes me. This is an anime that Natai has repeatedly like shoved down my throat. Like, you gotta watch this. You gotta watch this. You gotta watch this.
It's great.
Dude, I will eventually.
Like, so I didn't want to watch it because Natai was like, it's so good, and then I watched it, and then I was like, okay, motherfucker was right. It is great. I love Kekkai Sensen.
God damn it. Fooled by Natai again into thinking an anime is good.
The only people who talk about Kekkai Sensen are people like Natai and now me, who are like, dude, it's so fucking good, you need to watch it. And you know how you get like, oh, someone's referring you or someone's recommending you a super obscure anime, and they say, oh, it's so good. And you're like, oh, whatever. You're just saying that because it's obscure. No, bro. Kekkai Sensen is actually fucking phenomenal. Like, everyone needs to watch it, and I hope it gets a second coming and people realize how good of a show it was. Like, it's got everything that you would want in it. Like, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be on the edge of your seat. And just overall, you'll have a great fucking time. Like, to me, Kekkai Sensen's a 9 out of 10 anime, man.
And, you know, you brought up Baccano. That's something that I think back in the day, we might have agreed what could have belonged on this list. But I think it has had its second coming, and a lot of people now realize how good that Baccano was.
We did a spoiler cast on Baccano, didn't we?
We didn't do a spoiler cast. It was something that you watched last year for our Secret Senpai thing.
Oh yeah,
you
Secret
actually
Senpai.
Watched it and rated it, and you really liked it.
I liked it, other than some glaring plot hole problems, but overall, I wouldn't say it was a bad time. Yes, fuck you people and your recommendations of, oh, this anime is so good. Fuck off.
I think that's an anime who, you know, up until maybe 3 to 4 years ago, I would have put on this list, but I don't think I can anymore because it has, like you said, had its second coming, and people have realized, wow, this was really good.
I definitely think it's still underappreciated, though, Baccano.
Yeah, oh, for sure,
because
it's never put in like anyone's top 20 or top 30 list, but it's easily in my top 10.
But when you go to like 10 anime you need to watch to be cultured type of deal, you know, like. You know what I'm talking about. Fucking anime man, Joey. You fuck you, Joey. Get out. Anyway, I love Joey. No, because you'll find a bunch of these animes that we're going to be, or a bunch of these shows, anime, manga, these creative titles.
These things we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, you'll find that they are on lists for, like, obscure stuff that people think is obscure. And it's like, yeah. And a lot of them are, unfortunately, like, these are cultured watching lists, and fuck off. I mean, it's kind of true, though. Like,
maybe. Do you want to keep going with your list, or should I go into some of mine?
No, we can swap. I don't want to speak for 45 minutes straight.
Okay. Well, the first one I want to talk about is an anime that, when did it actually come out? I don't remember.
Didn't it have...
I want to say 2009?
So, I do know, Alex, what anime are you going to talk about? Barty the Mighty Decode.
Barty the Mighty Decode.
So, didn't this get a new manga, like, published or something? I see it everywhere.
Okay, yeah, so I am talking about Barty the Mighty Decode is specifically the anime I want to talk about. So it's based on a manga that originally ran in the 80s, from 85 to 88.
Oh my god, that is ancient. Okay.
Yes, and there was a previous anime adaptation simply just called Barty the Mighty, which was an OVA series. I think it had 4 episodes. Each one was 40 minutes long. In 96, from 96 to 97, those ran. And then there was a continuation, essentially a reboot of the manga series that ran from 2002 to 2008. And then after that manga series finished, the anime series called Barty the Mighty Decode, which is what I'm talking about, ran from 2008 to 2009. And from 2008 to 2012, there was a sequel manga that was being published called Barty the Mighty Evolution.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, there was recently a new sequel manga for Barty the Mighty. But I wanted to talk about specifically Barty the Mighty Decode. I will say, if I don't know where you can even find the OVAs online anymore. They're not that good, to be perfectly honest. The animation is questionable, to say the least. But anyway, why you should watch Barty the Mighty. I think that... So... A big part of the plot of Barty the Mighty involves body swapping. So, kind of to back up a little bit, the story revolves around the main character, whose name is Bertie Sifon Altira, who is essentially a space cop. And it's essentially space CSI. She's someone who goes around to different planets and tries to catch interplanetary criminals. And once there's a criminal that she is tracking on Earth, and in the process of trying to track him down, she accidentally kills a Japanese high school boy named Tsutomu. And because they're so like the species that she comes from is really like advanced technology wise, she is actually able to save this person's consciousness, if not his body, by keeping his consciousness inside of hers. So it's two consciousnesses. That's difficult to say. Occupying essentially the same body. Something else that she can do is she can essentially shapeshift. So it becomes this body swapping thing, and the species that she's a part of is building a new body for this kid that she killed. And so the crux of the story is her trying to kind of do her job, track down criminals, interplanetary criminals on Earth, and allow this boy that she accidentally killed to keep living his life. That's sort of the crux of the plot and how it evolves over time. The one thing I really appreciate about Barty the Mighty Decode is there were, and even from the manga they were adapting, there were a lot of opportunities to delve into ecchi territory, considering that it involves body swapping between both male, and almost every single time they resist the urge to do it, even though I know the temptation had to be there. And and this was at a time, like I said, it came out in 2008, when there were a lot of anime out there that just were very ecchi for the sake of just being ecchi, and I wouldn't have blamed them at the time for doing it. So I have a great deal of respect for them, like not leaning on that to draw in viewers.
Yeah, like, I remember watching Barty the Mighty Decode and being like, oh, it's one of those Ranma 1/2, like, type of deals. Oh, they're gonna do ecchi shit, like, stupid ecchi stuff. And literally the MC, or I guess the MC would be Barty, not the guy, the high school kid. Yeah, so literally the high school kid, like, he has a thought about it once at the very beginning, and then he kind of never talks about it ever again. Like, he has reservations in the beginning, but he kind of just gets used to it, and then they never go full-blown like, oh, I swapped to a woman's body, and woo-woo.
Yeah, there's never a point where like his consciousness tries to take over Bertie's body and it's like feeling up her tits.
Yeah, which is fucking, that's great, because I don't know if other people remember the late 2000s, but
that was like the ecchi renaissance for some reason. There were so many ecchi shows that came out around that time.
Everything had to be fucking ecchi. Like School Rumble. School Rumble was ecchi for whatever reason, and I hated it, even though it had a decent story. But yeah, they could have rightfully done it and gotten more sales. But I think that the reason why I would say it was definitely underrated and underappreciated was that it's so serious.
It is. It plays everything incredibly straight. Like, yeah, there's some comedy in this, especially in the beginning, with that whole, like, oh my god, I'm in a girl's body, what the fuck?
Yeah, and that's what I found so weird about watching Barty the Mighty Decode. How not humorous and crazy because it's a nonsensical situation, right? Space cop crashes into you and kills you, and you become a consciousness in her body, and you help her catch space criminals. Like, that's nonsensical as fuck. Like, if you tell me that synopsis, my first immediate thought would be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like a Space Dandy type of deal where episodic shit's gonna be crazy, but it's not.
Yeah, and so there's 2 seasons to Barty the Mighty Decode. And like I would say most of, especially like the first half of the first season, revolves around both Birdie and Tsutomu getting used to this arrangement that they have, and how awkward it is where essentially two people are occupying the same body and dividing the things that both of them have to do to maintain some semblance of normalcy in both of their lives. Them trying to get used to it, them trying to adjust to it. But as the plot goes on, there's like this whole, what would you call it, like a conspiracy that they uncover with some of the alien criminals. Like there's a criminal organization and they're trying to do something to Earth. But,
there's a crime syndicate.
And like that,
it becomes serious. And that's, again, because of how it's established in the beginning, you think it's just going to be one of those like gender swapping normal like ecchi shows. But then it starts throwing in the plot, and you're just like, "What the actual fuck? This is now too serious."
It's also worth mentioning that another plot thread through this that gets introduced very, very early on is that Birdie's like cover on Earth as she's posing as a human is that she's a pop idol. And the only time that an entire episode delved into comedy was one time where her body swapping wasn't working quite right, and Tsutomu got trapped in her body as the pop idol persona that she had, which I forgot what was the pop idol's name. Shion Arita was the pop idol persona that she had, and so he has to go through this entire day of being a pop idol like in a girl's body, and so you hear his internal thoughts throughout all of this, and it is actually really funny. It is the one episode that delves almost entirely into comedy. The rest of it's very, very serious.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a comic relief episode placed there because you know how that's what they usually do. Like the beach episode, the comic relief episode, they usually place this before or in between like serious things because it's like people kind of
definitely
need a break.
A breather episode because what comes both before and after it is some pretty heavy shit.
Yeah, like that's just, to me, that makes sense why they.
But you mentioned something before we started recording rather, about Birdie and why it might not have been as popular as it could have been, and it might have been the era in which it kind of came out, because like we've said, there were a lot of anime at that time that had these ecchi elements, and I think people back then went into these things expecting echiness to it, and Birdie the Mighty didn't have it. I think that maybe played against it.
I definitely think because of how straight-laced it was and how it was story-driven and heavy and plot like heavy, that's why people didn't like it, because you go from the beginning of like, oh, it looks like it's going to be your typical, maybe it's a rom-com, maybe it's a ecchi body swap type of deal, and then it doesn't go anywhere with it. So I'm pretty sure people dropped it because like, oh, it's just another body swap thing. I'm not really into body swap. Drop. And then the other half of the people dropped it because they're like, oh, this is just like, there's not enough plot. And then the rest of the fans started dropping it once the plot started coming out. And they're like, this isn't like funny. What? This is serious. What the hell?
I definitely think if you start it and you give it a shot and you go all the way to the end, it's a fun ride by the end. It really is. Despite how serious it is, it's a really good ride.
I definitely think it's okay of a story, because again, I don't like how, of course, you'd have to do an opening like that. Like, what boy would be okay with Birdie, some alien monster lady, just taking his body over or putting his consciousness in her body and then like fighting? It has a place for storytelling, but it's just, to me, I feel like it's a wrong way to start off a show, because if you're not upfront about what your show is gonna be like within the first, I don't know, 7 episodes, I'd say, you're gonna lose a lot of fans.
Yeah, you are. I will say, before we move on, because we've spent 30 minutes now talking about 2 different shows.
Oh God.
In my research for this, one thing I did not know is apparently Zack Snyder has used Barty the Mighty Decode as a sort of roadmap as to how he has, or how he wants to direct his DC Universe movies. I didn't know that.
That's so weird. That's weird. It's always weird to me when you have Westerners who find inspiration from anime, right? Like, because anime was inspired by the West, so it's kind of like a reverse, a 180.
It's an Uno reverse card.
Yeah. So, because we have so much, I didn't think we would talk this much about each show. Like, I honestly thought we'd spend 5 minutes on each one. So that's why I said 5. Have you been here before? Yeah, I know, we tangent for fucking ever. So I'll make sure I move along through mine. So my next one is Love So Life. This is a manga by Kaede Koichi Kaede, and it's published by Hanato Yume. It is a shoujo manga, and if you guys have ever listened to the podcast, I very rarely talk about how much I love shoujo manga, but man, I fucking love shoujo manga. And let me tell you, Love So Life was one of the first shoujo manga that I fell in love with, and it's about a girl. She's an orphan, and she kind of grew up in an orphanage, and she's a babysitter, and then she babysits these twins who are the fucking cutest things. Oh my god. Kaede Koichi, fuck, does a great job drawing these twins in cute fucking outfits. And I look forward to every fucking volume of the tankobon because they're in different outfits. Like, they're so cute. They're so cute. And so I think the main character's name is Shiori. I want to say it's Shiori. I don't actually remember. But main character girl is a babysitter, and she babysits for... Tell me why I remember the beautiful dad's name, Matsunaga-san.
Listen, that's something you got to take up with yourself, man.
Listen, because it's such a unique name. So she babysits these twins for this guy named Matsunaga. It turns out he's like their uncle, and he's actually taking care of his niece and nephew twins because their dad was in a car accident with their mom, and their mom died. So the dad kind of went off the deep end, and I'm just like, oh, such a tragic backstory. And also, these twins are so cute. And it's just about Shiori taking care of the kids and falling in love with Matsunaga-san. That's it. Like, she's a 18-year-old high school kid. And it's just a rom-com about that. It's not really rom-com as much as it is about taking care of the kids. And it's so fluffy. Like, Fua is all you get from it. And I am so fucking surprised it has not gotten a fucking anime adaptation because I think it's
Give
great.
it time.
If something like
Give
Fruits...
it time.
Well, you know what? You know why? Because Love So Life isn't as dramatic as other shoujo manga. And I can definitely tell that's why it's underappreciated. Because with shoujo manga, you need a balance. It can't just be all sweet, right? There needs to be some stakes. There needs to be some drama. Like, you think about, like, A Prank's Kiss. It's Itazura... The Kiss?
Yeah,
Is that what it was? Yeah, there's a huge drama element to that, and that's what made it super popular, and that's why it has a fucking live-action drama. Kimi ni Todoke, From Me to You, same thing. There's, like, super dramatic things in it, and... Oh my god, that's another shoujo manga I absolutely love. From Me to You.
Welcome to John talking
Anime
about shoujo manga for 2 hours.
This is the shoujo manga episode now. I'm derailing this bitch, but let me tell you about shoujo manga, man. But yeah, so Love So Life, it's not popular because it doesn't have very much depth to it in terms of drama. But if you want fucking fluffy romance and looking at those cute twins, perfect. I would recommend buying all the volumes and reading
I could
overnight.
tell you did a chef's kiss even though no one can see you.
Listen, chef's kiss.
I mean, I've never read it, but I've heard you talk about it a couple of times, and I know you love it. You absolutely. I know on our Discord server you've sold that shit multiple times.
Listen, if something like Gakuen Babysitters got an anime, I don't understand why Love So Life wouldn't get an anime.
Okay, it'll be done by like A1, and it'll be done in like 2 months, and it'll look like shit.
I mean, probably, but the kids look cute, and that's all that really matters.
Sometimes all you need is a cute kid. Hello, police. I'm talking about a manga. All right. Well, I guess I can move on to something else that's a little bit heavy. Do you like conspiracy theories?
I love conspiracy theories.
I guess we should mention that Love So Life, since it's it's still source material, it's a manga. Good luck getting it.
Yeah, that's why I said it's published through Hana Yume, so your best luck would be to go to a manga store and a manga bookstore.
I did not mention it. We were talking about Barty. As far as I can tell, it is not currently available anywhere online for streaming. So you're either going to have to find it on DVD and or Blu-ray. I don't even think it was ever released on Blu-ray. That's how old it is.
Listen, if we're being honest here, Brady the Mighty Decode is probably in the DVD like surplus bin, where it's like buy 5 for $5.
You're probably not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
But the next one I want to talk about. So, do you like conspiracy theories?
Yes, they're putting chemtrails in the waters and turning our frogs gay.
Are you a dedicated Joe Rogan podcast listener? Have I got the anime? Have I got the anime for you? So I want to talk about Eden of the East, or Higashi no Eden, is its Japanese title. This is an anime that came out back in when did the anime? Back in 2009, when I was but a freshman in college, and it's essentially what it is. So the basic plot of Eden of the East is that it follows this actually has really two main characters, but it follows this girl named Saki, who has just graduated from college, and she's on her way, or she's on a trip to the United States, where I guess it's a graduation trip, and she already has a job lined up when she gets back. So she's like one last hurrah before she enters the working world. And while she's in Washington, D.C., just outside the White House, she encounters a guy named Takizawa, who is naked and has amnesia, and all he has is basically a very weird looking cell phone in his hand. This cell phone has a woman's voice coming out of it who calls herself Juiz, and is essentially a concierge, and leads Takizawa to an apartment where he finds a bunch of fake passports. They're all like legitimate looking passports. They all have his picture on them, but they all have different identities on them. And so when and one of the passports, because Saki gives Takizawa her coat to cover him up because he's naked, accidentally slips her passport to him. They meet back up and they return to Japan together. Something else that's going on before this happens is there was a missile attack against Japan where absolutely no people were killed. Like, there was property damage, but no people were killed. And that becomes like a background plot to... But anyway, they go back to Japan. They find out new missiles have hit Japan. Again, no casualties. Takizawa also discovers that the phone he has 8.2 billion yen worth of money on it, and that he is part of a game where 12 individuals who are known as Selasau have been each given 10 billion yen to, quote, save Japan in some way. And that's the only direction that they're given. And so that's where the plot really kicks off at the end of the first episode, where... it essentially becomes about a bunch of different intersecting conspiracies and a lot of questions like, who are the Selasau? Who started this program? What does Save Japan actually mean? Who's responsible for these missile attacks? Who is Takizawa? And that's where the entire plot goes. It's a bunch of interwoven conspiracy theories, and it sort of takes the form of like a thriller in a way, and it's pretty damn good. The amazing thing to me is the series itself is only 11 episodes long. It is, however, rounded out by two different films. One is called The King of Eden, and the other one is called Paradise Lost. Both of these movies are around an hour and a half each. But I would say with just 11 episodes and two 90-minute films, there's a lot of story here for not a lot of runtime, and it balances it all really, really well.
Yeah, so Eden of the East is one of those rare ones where, or rather, I should say, Eden of the East is one of those that you go onto the top 10 most underrated shows or underappreciated animes, and it's going to be there at slot number fucking 1. All right? Like, no joke. It's going to be there. A lot of people think it's actually great, but not a lot of people have seen it. It's super weird. Like, I don't know if you want to call it like a cult classic, but I remember watching it because, like, you know, like, oh, look, missiles in the sky, explosions, and the animation looks great. It's hand drawn.
Yeah, there's no CGI in this anywhere at all. It's all hand drawn.
But it's very, and it's like, because it comes out in a time of anime where there weren't really a lot of dramatic, story-driven shows. A lot of it was like, you know, your typical shonen, your ecchi stuff, your harems, and it's a weird spot where it's like, this is serious drama shit, and it fills that void. I would say it's one of the better ones that came out of the late 20,000, like
the late 2000s.
Late 2000s. Yeah, because technically 2000s only refers to the 2000 to 2010,
2000 to
right?
2009.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna be honest. I only watched it because I thought it was gonna be like military related, and I was like, oh, is this gonna be like about Japan's #1 spy, super spy Japan? But no, I think it's definitely underrated, and I hate to agree with these stupid ass fucking lists that say #1 most underrated, underappreciated anime. Like, fuck you guys. I hate listening to people and their recommendations. Damn it!
And yet here you are doing the exact same thing.
Here I am doing because I just want to. Who fucking thought of this subject? I forgot. I think it was Sho.
Yeah, Sho was the one
right?
who originally came up with this, and we just kind of ran with it. Something else about this that I think is it varies from especially anime that were coming out at the time. There's not a single child anywhere in this anime. Every single character is an adult. They are 20 plus. Every single character is 20 plus years old.
I feel like they did that because they didn't want to spend time like on background characters and stupid side plots that revolved around children.
Maybe, but it was one of the very first anime I ever remember watching where there were no teenagers, there were no children. It was all an anime about adults doing adult things.
Well, because the identity of the East is like, again, so dramatic and serious that
there's a theme emerging with my choices.
Yeah, I know. All right, so Hulu and Funimation. I can't believe that's still airing. Like, you can
it is
because it's so old.
It is currently airing on both Hulu and Funimation. I don't. Funimation has the movies. I don't believe Hulu does.
Hulu's got some weird picks, but I have problems with Hulu's streaming services. You only get to stream in like 720p at best, and it's always.
If you want to hear
pixelated,
more
like,
about
480p.
John's foray against Hulu, we had an episode at the beginning of this year where we talked about it. You should watch it.
Yeah,
that's a little self-aggrandizing shit right there.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
We got to move on. We're running out of time.
Go. All
right.
Rapid fire.
Remonster. This is a web novel. Light novel? This is a novel, Japanese novel that I read online through probably legal means.
Certainly legal means.
Through definitely certainly legal means. I have zero idea where you could actually read this other than buying it. I do know that there is a translated it is being officially translated, so wherever you can purchase this, please go and purchase it, support the author. But Remonster is a novel that I definitely think gets slept on. It's gotten definitely a lot more popular because of the manga. The manga came out and it follows a guy. Surprise, surprise! It's about isekai and it's about an OPMC.
Oh, God.
So this guy, he gets stabbed by a girl, and in this life they have like this. People are born with superpowers and they have like super crazy feats, and his power was that he can absorb things. Like he can absorb things. Like he can eat someone and absorb things, I guess. He can absorb other powers of people in this human world. Then he gets killed and he reincarnates as a goblin. But he kept that power of his, except he has to eat stuff now. And that's it. He's a goblin who power levels and becomes like a major player in this fantasy world. It's written in a like diary style format. So like he'll write in blurbs of like day 7, day 9, and then like it'll be a recording of the day. So it's kind of like a log book. It's very
and Frank's
weird.
isekai.
Needless and Frank's isekai. I don't know about that. I don't like the connotations with that, but that's how they decide to deliver the medium for the novel. So with that being said, how they decided to do the manga was that they would just animate like the day that is happening. Like this chapter is day whatever, and then you would just show like a normal, this is what's happening. I think it's written in such a way that you could definitely make a screenplay out of it, and I definitely think Remonster, I think it actually got greenlit for an anime like recently, but I'm surprised it took so long because this is such a stereotypical like isekai trash thing that I'm surprised it hasn't been greenlit.
Yeah, you think it, as much as
So
they're
far.
throwing cash at every isekai out there, this would have gotten an adaptation by now.
Yeah, so I believe they just announced the anime. I think it's going to be coming out in like 2022 or 2023.
Okay.
Don't quote me on this because it's very vague in my mind because I underprepared as always. But yeah, that's the main gist of it. I really like it. I definitely think it's underappreciated because again, it is one of the earlier like isekai OPMC type of deals. So it's long running and it is enjoyable of a story, like following what is his name now? Aparo. The main character's name changes because they don't actually have names in the show. They're actually like nameless. Like they'll call someone like Swordswoman 1,
kind of like how they did
like
it in
Blacksmith.
was it
1.
Goblin Slayer? How everyone is just called by what they are.
Yeah. So it's very similar to that, where no one actually has names. Their names are based on their races and their abilities. So it's very action heavy, and the main character guy is pretty funny. This is very R18. There are a lot of orgy scenes and stuff, so
that might be why it's not gotten an anime adaptation yet, John.
Yeah, but they can exclude that. Like, it's not imperative to the plot that he does. And plus, you have anime that's literally anyway.
Okay, fair. With things like Redo of Healer and
yeah, like if Redo of Healer got a fucking anime, I don't understand why Remonster doesn't. It doesn't have non-consensual rape. Well, kind of.
Okay. Be careful there.
Listen, it's about goblins. Make the connection. It's about goblins.
Just be careful with how you phrase that. All right. Well, I had never heard of it until you brought it up, so I guess it definitely fits this category.
Well, it's a sleeper, man. I guarantee you, when the anime comes out, people are gonna love it.
So you may
mark my words. Just like I talked about Goblin Slayer, mark my goddamn words.
Who may not have been listening to our podcast that long, back before Goblin Slayer aired. In fact, when we were at Anime Expo, before the anime had even been announced, you were reading it, and I think it may have been me or someone had asked you what you were reading, and you said Goblin Slayer, and you said, mark my words. By the end of this year, an anime adaptation is going to be announced. And by God, in December of that year, an anime adaptation was announced.
And the funniest fucking thing was when we went to Anime Expo and we went to the Bunny Girl Cafe, on day 0, there was a guy cosplaying Goblin Slayer. And I was like, yo, I was just talking about that.
But I swear,
so that was cool.
You were like a fucking prophet. You said, mark my words, by the end of this year, an anime adaptation for this will be announced. And December 2nd, I think it was, of that year, they announced an anime adaptation.
Well, the reason I said that was because of how fast. So it originally was a light novel, and then it got a manga, right? Like how fast the manga got greenlit. So originally the web novel became a light novel, and then how fast that happened. And then you look at how fast the light novel got a manga adaptation. I was like, it's getting like everything released in a year. So I was like, by the end of this year, because the manga just started coming out this year, next year, I think the anime is going to come out. Like, I think they're going to greenlight it and it's going to be coming out. And I was right.
So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Soon, Monster will get an anime adaptation.
Listen, it's just like looking at the stock markets and knowing what a bull run is and, you know, what a bear market is going to look like. Like, it's pretty... To the fucking moon, diamond hands! No paper-handed bitches!
All right.
Anyway,
I will move on. So, the next thing I want to talk about is an anime called Time of Eve. So Time of Eve is a very short anime series. It's actually an ONA series of 6 episodes. It was eventually edited together into a film version.
Yeah, like a 2-hour long movie.
106 minutes. That's how long the movie is. Each episode, being that it's an ONA and isn't really restricted to the time constraints of a broadcast anime, it varies widely in how long the runtime of each episode is. I think the shortest is around 15 minutes. The longest, I think, is around half an hour or so. But Time of Eve is a story that takes place in the quote-unquote near future, where artificial intelligences and androids have become commonplace. They've kind of emerged and filled niches in multiple places in society. And it's been they've been around and been part of society long enough where an entire generation has a sort of come of age in a time where they don't know a time before this was normal. And the story revolves around, a couple of different things, but it starts off with the main character, Ryuko, discovering that his home android, which is essentially like a servant, it's started acting independently and coming and going from his house on its own without any kind of instruction. And he finds a log in his android. It just says, "Are you enjoying the time of Eve?" So he decides to follow the robot as it leaves his house like in the middle of the night, and leads him to a cafe called the Time of Eve. This cafe has one rule and one rule only: we do not discriminate between humans and androids. In a society where androids and AI have taken over a lot of the lower skilled jobs, you can imagine that there's a bit of discrimination in the society because of this. But the rest of the story of Time of Eve revolves around the different patrons, regular patrons of this cafe, essentially relating their life stories to the main character, Rikuo. And you get a glimpse of what the society is like, how it's evolved, how, like, you can imagine that unemployment is very high in certain sectors of society, because artificial intelligence and robots or androids have moved into those sectors and taken over the labor of humans. So there's people there who they can't find a job because every single thing that they've ever trained for eventually gets taken over by an artificial intelligence or a robot. Boy, it's even more appropriate now than it was when it came out.
Listen, the fear of automation in the industries is just like, I don't know. That's always been a fear ever since we started making factories. Like, what do you mean we don't need 100 people to operate a loom anymore with the shuttlecocks? What do you mean you're gonna have a machine weaving shit? You know, like it's kind of just how the advancement of time works. But in my opinion, if there's like with automation, it is scary because it will kick us out of jobs. But that's why like things like universal income that we get based off of the taxes of the corporations that go automation should be a thing. But
anyway,
I mean, this is neither here nor there.
Moving away from the political shit. The thing I love about Time of Eve is that it is one of those things where the setting, the world gets fleshed out through conversations that are had between these patrons and the main character. And also, there is actually an overarching plot throughout the run of these 6 episodes, that these androids are beginning to become self-aware and sentient. They're beginning to just ignore their programming and kind of go off on their own and try to improve themselves of their own accord. And the androids that are in the bar start discussing, like, what does this mean? Should we advocate for freedom? Like, how far should we go with this? You know, do we need to actually hide the fact that we're becoming self-aware and sentient?
Man, Alex, why is every fucking show that you want to talk about so
because
heavy?
This is the shit I like.
What's wrong with you? Oh, man.
Anyway, yeah, that's Time of Eve, and that's exactly why you should watch it. It's a super short watch, whether you're watching the movie adaptation or the actual ONA. Like I said, the series is only 6 episodes long. You can get through it in a few hours. It is currently airing on Crunchyroll and Verve, so you can stream it on either of those platforms. I think both platforms only have the ONA. I don't think either platform has the film. I could be mistaken about that, but
yeah, I remember the film. It came out actually pretty recently, didn't it? Like the one they stitched it all together.
2010.
No, well,
I don't know if you would consider that a recent, but.
Not. I mean, sometimes I forget that.
The one thing I will say, if I had to choose one or the other, I would say go with the ONA if you want to, because it does have some insert songs that are really good that were edited out of the movie for some reason. But yeah, it's something that very few people I ever talked to about it have ever heard of, and definitely give it a try. It's something that doesn't take a whole lot of your time to give a shot.
See, I've definitely never. I've heard of Time of Eve. I've never watched it because I don't really care for. It's too heavy, man. I'm in an anime that's like, oh, I don't have to think. Oh, they fight cross swords, ching ching, whoa, shiny. I'm a basic ass bitch. All right. Because of the time constraints, I'm gonna speed through both of my last 2 because one of them I want to talk more about the other. I have down here Silver Spoon. Silver Spoon was an anime that aired sometime in the mid 2000s. Actually late 2010s, right?
I'll look it up. Hold on.
I want to say late. All right. Jamie. Anyway, no, we quote Joe Rogan too much on this podcast, man.
Look that up.
So, Gin no Saiji, it's about a guy who fails city life and can't study for shit. So he moves out to the boonies, and like it's kind of a culture shock, fish out of water type of deal. Then it was a coming of age, and it's actually a really good story about like learning to accept sometimes like don't rate yourself off
Came out in
of
2013, by
other
the way.
people. 2013, there we go. Because I was like, it's not that old, but it's kind of old now. The anime itself is actually really funny, and I really love the opening song, and I just think it's super underappreciated. Like, it's got good values in it, and I really liked the ending to the manga. And that's it. Like, it's not currently airing anywhere, so good luck finding this. I do know that the manga was translated, and it is finished translating, so you might be able to pick it up at your local library or your local anime bookstores.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the one I actually want to talk about was Death Parade. So Death Parade was a anime original that aired in, Jamie looked that up.
Okay.
All right, insert
Give
it
me
there.
just a second.
I think it was like 2016 or 2015. I'm pretty sure it's 2016.
2015.
2015.
That was the year
There
our
we go.
podcast
See, I knew
started.
it was mid. Yeah, because it was pretty. I remember it was when we started.
Yeah,
our
winter
podcast, or
2015,
sometime
which
near
is
that.
when we started our podcast. Yeah, it was airing while we were first starting.
Yeah, when I wasn't on the
Yeah.
podcast yet. So Death Parade is on Funimation and Hulu if you want to stream it, and I really like it. It's episodic, but it does have an overarching main storyline. And I really like the opening song in the opening credits. Like they're all dancing, and it's weird to like just if anything, look up Death Parade opening, and then you'll be like, what the fuck? And then just watch it. Like it's got if you like story heavy stuff, Alex, you might like Death Parade.
Probably.
I'm not entirely sure if you.
I
you
haven't seen it, and this is another one that Natai always tells me, dude, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
Yeah, no, like if you like story-driven heavy shit, you should watch Death Parade.
This is something that
essentially-
but when we first started the podcast, this is something that in the winter season of 2015 was something I did sleep on. So
Yeah, so Death Parade, other than the banger OP, it's about purgatory. So basically, you're going to be set up every episode.
oh god,
you're
this
going
is
to be
talking
set
about
up with
Madhouse.
two
Remember
characters.
when Madhouse could do no wrong?
Yeah, no, it's fucking all right. It is beautifully animated and it looks great. But the best thing about Death Parade is that it's kind of episodic, but it basically is these two characters enter from an elevator, and then they have to talk about like their lives and stuff like that, and basically they get judged which one goes to hell, which one goes to heaven. It's purgatory, and it's very story driven and heavy. Like some of the episodes, it's super fucked up. Some of the episodes, you're just like, wow, what the fuck. And it's just great in general sense of the thing. Like you've got murderers, you've got people who kill themselves, you've got
Characters
people,
for
like,
everyone.
Yeah, they have characters from different walks of life, from different aspects, and they have different circumstances. And then at the end, they either go to hell or they go to heaven, and they can actually both end up in hell or heaven. So it's not like they have to compete against each other or anything. Like the what's that? Death Billiards, right? Yeah, so Death Billiards was it's the same guy from the bar in Death Parade. It's the same setting where but instead of playing for who wins and gets to continue on with their life, you're in purgatory and you have to basically argue like why you should be able to go to heaven and the other person shouldn't. But in the general sense, it's I think only one person can go to heaven, and I think both of you can go to hell though.
I see. This seems like something I should do for one of our Discord server watch parties at some point.
Oh yeah, and it's very short. I think it's only like 11 episodes.
12 episodes.
12 episodes, and it is an anime original, so there's no source. And the music, the OST, I would say is not as great as Kekai Sensen, but it does have a pretty good OST. It's very jazzy themed. You are in a bar after all, like a speakeasy type bar. But I definitely would recommend people watch this. Like, it's just a great watch. Like, I think I rated Death Parade an 8 out of 10. Not quite as good as Kekai Sensen, but it's still good. And that's mainly because Kekai Sensen's OST kicked everything out of the water, to be honest. Like, I can't lie. That's why I like Kekai Sensen so much.
Kicked ass and took names.
All right, and that's it. Those are my recommendations for those are my underrated anime /manga/light novels. Everyone should go check it out because whatever I say is right.
Well, I will speed through. I have 2 left as well. I'll speed through my first one because I feel like a lot of people have heard of it, but I don't think it's appreciated by enough people. So the first, and Shinichiro Watanabe worked on Death Parade, so to segue off of that, I want to talk about Space Dandy. Yes, he is a dandy guy in space, and I know a lot of you out there may be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Space Dandy isn't underappreciated. A lot of people like it. It's not underrated. Everyone who watched it liked it. Okay, yeah, but I don't see enough fucking people out there talking about how great Space Dandy is. Space Dandy is a god-tier anime comedy, and I want you all to fucking acknowledge it.
Oh my god. No, all right, here's the thing. So, I definitely think it's underappreciated, or underrated, I would say, not underappreciated, because it does have a dub on Adult Swim, Toonami, whatever, which one? It's out in the West, for fuck's sake. Like, it's not that unpopular. If it doesn't have a fucking dub and it doesn't air here on our anime network TV shows in the US, It can't be
it can't be underappreciated.
Yeah, it can't be underappreciated. I definitely think it's underrated, for sure. Like, not a lot of people watch it and be like, oh, yeah, that's a great fucking show. Like, no one understands how great, because again, it's episodic, right? But it does kind of have an overarching story, and overall, it's just a great fucking time. It's got wacky characters, and the only reason we probably like it so much is because it's not anime. Space Dandy is like anime, but it's not anime.
It's very Western. As many things done by Shinichiro Watanabe are. I mean, just look at Cowboy Bebop or what was the music one that he did recently? Carol and Tuesday. Just look at how Westernly inspired these are, and Space Dandy is no different. But I fucking love Space Dandy, and I don't see enough people talking about it, and that's why I wanted to talk about it here. It has everything. Like, if you're a fan of anime comedies, and you haven't seen Space Dandy, fucking do it. I guarantee you it will become one of your favorites. Like, it is a god tier anime comedy up there with the likes of Konosuba, and no one talks about it. You motherfuckers.
Because I feel like it's not under or whatever. No, we're gonna move on.
I also love how on the website, the official website for Space Dandy, it still says season 3 TBD.
I don't know if it's.
I would love it, and it would probably be fucking great. But no, so the last thing I want to talk about and give. Oh, by the way, Space Dandy is actually streaming on Funimation and Hulu. However, Hulu only has season 1 for some reason. But the last one I want to talk about is an anime that came out back in 2016, which both myself and Sho talked about on this podcast at length back then. But it is an anime called 91 Days. So if you're a fan of like mob movies like The Godfather or, like maybe The Sopranos, definitely give 91 Days a shot. It's definitely done in those kind of veins. It's a story that takes place in the United States in a fictional city called Lawless in Illinois during Prohibition in 1932. It revolves around a character who, as a young boy, his family gets murdered by in the middle of a mafia dispute. And when he grows up, he actually joins that same mafia family who ended up killing his parents, and he rises to the ranks to try and kill the mob boss. And that is what the entire show is about. It delves into like the nature of revenge, and if it's even worth going for revenge when you think it's gonna feel good, and how ultimately self-defeating it is, how it turns you into an absolute monster because you start to obsess over it. There's a lot of psychological shit that it delves into with the nature of revenge, and it's all done in the backdrop of like 1930s prohibition and like mob gangster life, and it looks the part so well. Like, just like the art and animation, just it sells that whole prohibition era so fucking well. I could talk about 91 Days forever. And the funny thing is, so the actual plot of the story, as the title suggests, takes place over 91 days, and the airtime of the show itself was exactly 91 days.
I don't know if they did that on purpose. I hope they did, but yeah, the more you tell me, because I remember you guys always talking about 91 Days, and didn't you guys do a spoiler cast on it?
If we did, we might have. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think we ever did. I know that Sho and I talked about it multiple times across multiple episodes of our podcast back then, but that was when the podcast was still relatively new, so.
Yeah, I definitely do remember you guys talking about this a lot, and I still remain uninvested and uninterested.
Wow.
Listen, it just doesn't sound like it's up my alley, all right? Like, it's not super action-packed, and it's heavy on, like, drama and, like, psychological torture. Not really torture, but psychological problems. I just... not my cup of tea.
For people out there who do like the mob and gangster stuff, like I mentioned, you know, The Godfather, The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, things like that, definitely give this a shot, especially if you never have. It is, I guarantee you won't be disappointed. And the ending, in my opinion, it 100% sticks the ending.
All right.
And it is an anime original as well. I don't know, that may be worth pointing out. And you can watch it on Crunchyroll, Verve, and surprisingly, HBO Max.
That's so weird. HBO Max is so weird. It has so many weird shows on it.
It's like, yeah, the stuff they license seems so random.
I wonder if that's actually on purpose, but...
Maybe. But yeah, HBO also has The Sopranos, so it kind of goes with that too. That's pretty much, that's the 5 that that you and I wanted to talk about. So I think it's safe to say that for any of these out there that you have heard, you and I both recommend all the stuff we talked about wholeheartedly. And if you haven't had a chance to watch any of these, definitely give it a shot, legally if you can. Also worth pointing out, so all the stuff we mentioned about where stuff is, it's as of the time of this recording. Obviously that could change. We're recording it in November of 2021, so if you're listening to this, you know, months or years after the fact, obviously some stuff could have changed. And this is North America we're talking about, so obviously your mileage may vary with some of this. But
yeah,
got anything to say before I wrap this up, John?
Fucking end it, I'm hungry.
I am too. So thank you all there for dropping in to listen to us. Check the description below to find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. Check out our merch store and our affiliate links as well. Any purchases you make there do really, really help us out. With that, I've been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, John.
Good night, John.
Hey, John.
What's up?
Nobody expects a Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, God damn.
Come on.